Good morning yogis and calisthenics athletes. Welcome to this quite grey morning here in Buckinghamshire, England, and we're going to be having a little look at the issue of hamstrings today. And it's a fascinating topic, especially if, like me, you've got very tight hamstrings. So let's look at what that phrase actually means. So the hamstrings are a set of muscles, there's 3 of them on each leg, which run from approximately the back of the knee up to the sit bone area. I've just pointed to the wrong part, it's the sit bone. And they're responsible for doing this kind of action here with your leg. So in normal life, or fairly normal life, you would be using your hamstrings for running, for example. I can't really think of any other reason, and walking as well, I suppose. And so what's the issue with having tight hamstrings, you might ask? Because it doesn't really stop you living a normal life, which is true. However, there's a lot of yoga and calisthenics poses which basically can be completed better if your hamstrings are quite flexible or basically mobile. So I've just recently done a course with the brilliant Dr. Yogi, Andrew McConaughey, and on that course, I'll put a link by the way below for his workshops. So we discussed quite a lot about the anatomy, or he discussed I should say, and we listened, because he's an actual doctor. So one of the things we discussed a lot about was how it might not just be that your hamstrings are tight, but it might be that they're weak. So that might be a reason for their lack of ability to stretch. That's because if a muscle is weak and the muscle fibers are weak, the muscle protects itself by not lengthening, basically, and that translates into poor flexibility and mobility. Sorry, I'm a bit bleary-eyed. I have just woken up not very long ago. Yeah, so why is having tight hamstrings a problem? Well, it's being able to fulfill these postures in yoga and skills in calisthenics properly, or in their complete form. So, I'll give an example. So here we have a basic yoga posture, downward facing dog. I'm just going to ease into it. So in this pose, if I have my legs completely straight, like they're really supposed to be to do the posture, you notice that my back is compensating by curving slightly. So ideally in a down facing dog it should be like an upside down V shape. So your spine is straight and the legs are also straight. So because of the tightness in my hamstrings, it's creating that bit of a bend in the back there. Sorry, if I straighten my legs, it creates the bend in the spine that you can see. So I have to compensate, I have to bend my legs, and then I can straighten out my spine in line with my straight arms. So I've done yoga for quite a few years, and I'm a little bit tired of having to compensate. I would really like to have the straight legs there. Poor me. There's nothing like a challenge, and I'm sure I can work towards it. So the other yoga postures that you would typically use, which require long hamstrings or flexible hamstrings, are things like the forward folds. Now, this is so hard for me, especially first thing in the morning, like it is now. It's 7:30, so the muscles are not warmed up. In the evening, I can do these somewhat better, but you can see I have real trouble stretching into this pose. And actually, I have identified lately that doing this posture, which is called Paschimottanasana. I'm actually so bad at it that it's virtually not worth even doing, especially with the legs straight. I mean, I could sit here and it's not even, I can't even fit, because I'm so tight, it's not even stretching it. So the remedy, or one of them, which is normally used, is to bend the legs a lot. And here you can bring the chest down towards the thighs. And this is really the feeling you're supposed to have in the posture, of the thighs coming to meet, the chest coming down to meet the thighs as you stretch forwards. But again, I'd like to be able to do this with my legs straight, to do it the proper way, or the proper way. So also another classic, or probably the test that most people are aware of from going back years and years, is basically just being able to touch your toes. So if you reach forwards, and here again the stretch is actually being felt in my back really, because the back is compensating for a lack of length, or a lack of lengthening here up the back of the thigh. So if you can imagine here, my hamstrings are running. It's actually from the top of the tibia fibula. I might have to check my medical books about that. I'm not a doctor, as you can tell. So they run from the base of the back of the knee and come up to the ischial tuberosity, I think it's called. I might have to go back and edit that. Basically a sitting bone. I've lost my thread now. Yeah, folding forwards. So, as you can see, I have quite a lot of trouble here. It'd be nice to get my chest all the way down to the thighs. And then I actually became really aware of this, of my own tightness in this area, when I've been watching other yoga teachers who are able to, from this downward dog position, they're able to raise the rear leg, keep the toe pointing downwards, and this is the limit that my leg can come up. But I've seen other teachers, I mean they've been doing yoga a long, long time, but they can get their leg pointed right up to the ceiling in that posture, which seems quite a cool thing to do. This is the limit that I can get to. Once you're able to do a really nice downward dog, you can combine it in with other skills and postures nicely. So, for example, you can go from a downward dog straight into handstand position or into forearm balance, which I can't do at the moment. I have to kind of hop into those arm balances, and I'd much rather be able to do them from downward facing dog. The only way to do that is with flexible hamstrings. The other way of seeing how tight or flexible your hamstrings are is from the wide leg straddle position here. Again, I don't even like trying to do this posture, because it just feels like it's, when I'm stretching forwards, which is what you're supposed to do, to fold forward flat, I think it's called a pancake in gymnastics. But we do this in yoga as well. So I should ideally be able to stretch forward here, bring the chest down to the ground. Now, when I'm doing that, all I feel is an uncomfortable pulling on the inner edge of the knee and the tendons there. I think it's the hamstring tendons. And it doesn't feel good. Even when I bend the knees here, it just feels like it's not, that actually doesn't feel like it's even stretching. So I'm going to probably avoid doing that. I haven't really quite worked out the solution to it. These stretches feel a little bit better standing, but this is not really a hamstring stretch, this is more stretching the inner thighs. So that's led me on, apologies for the very long introduction. That's really led me on to thinking about what I can do about actually strengthening the hamstrings, because I was working previously a lot on trying to lengthen them, but as I learned from Dr. Yogi, Andrew McGonigal, you can potentially actually weaken or damage your hamstrings by overstretching them if you're not knowledgeable enough about your own body, and if you try and overstretch them and they're too weak, there's potential for damage that you can do. So I thought from now onwards I'm going to begin a program of just strengthening them up, just to see if that does make a difference to my flexibility level. So how do you strengthen them? Well, one way which I've devised is sort of a variation of what we call Warrior 3 in yoga. Right, that ball's going to keep rolling around, that can be put there. Stay. Okay. So we have this posture, Virabhadrasana 3, and it's basically one-legged. So you bring up the back leg and you hover here, and you can bring the arms forwards, but I'm not going to embarrass myself by doing that. You have to be self-disciplined here and keep the foot of the back leg pointed absolutely downwards, because as soon as you start to open it out, which is an external rotation of the hip, you'll see it kind of makes it easier, and it's not really using hamstring strength now, it's using muscles down the side of the body and the side of the hip, which are probably the they're the muscles down in your waist. It's your tensor fascia latae, which sounds like a coffee latte. Tensor fascia latae, which runs up the side of the thigh, and then your transverse abdominis, which is the abdominals which are along the side, and might have to look up the other ones. Your obliques, anyway, hip muscles. So it's using hip muscles to raise the leg instead of the hamstrings. So the foot needs to be pointed downwards. So if I raise up here, in yoga and calisthenics, which are body weight systems, it's very difficult to actually isolate single muscles. So if you use a gym, a clear way to strengthen hamstrings would just be to use the leg curl machine, which is the one where you're sort of on your front on a bench like that, and there's there's like a bar that you hook your heels through, and you do that kind of action. So I have tried to improvise something like that with the resistance bands, but I need to get slightly different strength bands to make that work. And also the resistance band keeps sort of unhooking from your heel, it's really inconvenient. So, right, I'm completely losing the thread now. Yeah, so this position, if the foot's pointed downwards, it means that you're actually using mainly hamstrings, but you will also be recruiting your gluteus max and gluteus medius in the butt, and also back muscles. It's your whole posterior chain, like the chain reaction of muscles down the back of the body. So, I mean, that's not a terrible thing, but basically by doing leg raises here, I've actually got round to the point now. Here we go. So by doing this, keeping the foot pointed down, it is working the hamstrings. I can actually also feel that stretching in the back of the standing leg as well, which is quite interesting. So I'm just doing several of these on each side, pretty much each morning from now on. And I did look at a video of myself doing this, and I noticed that I was slightly turning my foot of the raised leg outwards to externally rotate the hip and thus cheat. So I'm consciously trying to keep the foot turned down as much as possible. Okay, it's just a case of repeating those. They could be done with ankle weights on, which I don't have any at the moment. But adding a bit of resistance, adding a bit of resistance would be good for the strengthening action of that move. So what else can be done? So a good posture I learned from another yoga teacher this can be done with or without a prop here, a brick in between the thighs. So you stand ready and you raise one foot just slightly off the ground, and then I'm going to lower the chest forwards, down, 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 and then back again. And what this is doing, I can feel the hamstrings in the standing leg are working here, much like in the previous exercise or posture. There we go. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, much like in the previous posture, it's also using the muscles of the whole posterior chain. It isn't just the hamstrings. However, that's not really a problem. I mean, it is slightly making your back stronger as well at the same time, and your butt if you need to have a strong butt. So here we go, other side. There we go. So it is just interesting to think of different ways that you can activate the strength available in your hamstrings. In these seated forward folds, another trick also taught by my yoga teachers, it's not really a trick, it's just like a helping hand, is you can sit on your block to raise the height of the pelvis. So you want to have this feeling ideally that your hips are tipping forwards. But again, unfortunately, I'm actually really inefficient doing these forward folds. Even with the block there, it doesn't really feel like I'm getting that much out of this stretch here. So that brings me back to wanting to strengthen those hamstrings. Okay, well, thanks very much for listening, and I will no doubt give an update on my progress, and again it will be an honest update. I'm not planning to show you in a month's time that I've folded myself completely flat and strained into that pose in a kind of pancake forward fold or anything like that, but having a little bit of progress would be good. And I must mention it is very different day to day, so this is first thing in the morning. Even this evening I would probably be able to get a few inches further deeper into this forward fold just from having been walking around during the day and whatnot. So must bear that in mind as well. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I hope these tips were helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye for now. Do go ahead and visit my website, mattsyoga.com, and my Instagram, mattsyogaworkout.